Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. And obviously you can see we got a new background here. Nighttime in the city. But today we're going to jump into a particular topic that I've been discussing with some family and friends and kind of getting into because we've been seeing a large spread of this go on lately, and that is the whole single parent kind of subject going on. I know a lot of people are dealing with it. There are some moms who deal with it, but there's some men who deal with it. And I'm talking from the perspective of whichever parent is, we'll say, doing the majority of the providing, or maybe the one who's thinking most logically and is the one who's having the harder time with the separation. And I don't mean in terms of or if you are already separated, or maybe you were never married, but just separated from dating. You guys have kids, or just even a combined lifestyle. So it's either could be from having kids and you aren't married, or maybe you're married without kids or with kids, but a separation that causes a strain on your life, almost like your lives are connected. And then by pulling apart, somebody's losing something, or losing, some kind of negative is coming from the situation. So speaking on those kind of scenarios, particularly, it seems to have been something that's been going on a lot, and it seems to be a lot more widespread than what we realized. But after you start talking with a few of the people that then what happens is you start seeing that it's actually just really a lot more people that you know of is actually connected in the same way, going through the same thing. So it was a topic that I kind of wanted to really jump on and put on the channel. Now, so sorry, I had to pause because I keep getting a few interruptions, but I just want to continue straight from here. That so a lot of people, like I said, it ends up finding out that a lot of them actually have a lot of things in common when you start putting those pieces of the puzzle together, where you say, okay, this person I know is going through that problem, that person I know is going through a problem. And I think a lot of people who might watch this video can relate to say that there's a lot of people they know who are actually going through those kind of things, where you have a lot of people around you going through similar problems. This seems to be a big thing lately. So I just kind of wanted to address that. And not just address it in a matter of just talking about the issue, but no, I want to address in terms of a battle plan. Because like we always say on this channel, we are about improving your life, improving the quality of your life, improving the betterment of you as a person. And so we're going to come at this from an angle of, though there's many angles to come at this from in different ways to talk about this subject, we are coming at this from a perspective of how you can, or what you can do in your life to try to better yourself and protect yourself from these kind of elements if you haven't already been in them, and then what to do if you're going through that at the moment in any kind of way. So first off, when it comes to protecting yourself, if you are one of these people who are not really in a super serious relationship right now, be very mindful. Talk to people around you. Don't in this day and age, you cannot be the kind of person who you hear your friends or family gone through stuff and you say, well, that won't be me, so I'm not going to really pay attention to it or really hear it much or worry about it because, that's not going to happen to me. Don't be that person, because those days of being that person are long gone many years ago, where you could just assume that on average, if it's happening to people but it hasn't happened to you, it probably won't happen to you, and that the majority of people it probably isn't happening to. The truth is, nowadays, it's happening to the majority of people, because the way we are living in this society right now, a lot of people, truth be told, no one's going to say it, really do have mental issues. And it's not in the way that we typically think of mental issues in terms of, oh, something's wrong with them, they can't think straight, they are not intelligent. I don't mean like that. And the truth of the matter is, it's still a mental issue, just even though someone's functioning correctly, but they're so irrational or emotional that they're not able to function in society in a way that is proper to the people around them, being considerate and whatnot, or not thinking just of yourself. These are traits that are required for people to get along and survive. As that's starting to deteriorate nowadays in society, what's happening is that more pressure is being leaned on to the people who are logical, the people who have their head on screwed straight, and are about, very serious motivations. They're about their business and doing what they have to do and take care of things, being structured for their family. A lot more weight is being weighed or is being leaned on those kind of people, because a lot of other people are emotionally unstable. And then sometimes you get this phrase tossed around, and I hate this phrase, and I'm just gonna let it be known. I'm gonna talk straight when it comes to that, because like I said, I've seen this happen a lot now. The phrase emotional maturity, and that gets tossed around a lot, especially in the realm of relationships, where you have to understand something. When people say that, it's just a way of saying, I want you to deal with my problems, and I want you to be strong enough to deal with my problems emotionally if I'm an emotional wreck. But the truth is that that's just a cover up. So like I said, a lot of people have mental issues this day and age, and you have to understand that people who are all over the place are not able to control their emotions, or not able to think for the pack mentality or what's good for the majority, is considered having mental issues, regardless of how you slice that. Because at the end of the day, the benefit of the group is supposed to outweigh the benefit of the individual, and everyone's supposed to understand that. And this applies specifically to family structures and family dynamic. And so if someone is only worried about themselves and they're not worried about the pack, which is the family, then at that point, you have to understand that is somebody having mental issues, or social disorders, because you have to understand that if the pack falls, then generally speaking, your own well-being is disrupted, or at the least, maybe your children's well-being is disrupted, and that's not natural. That's not a natural order of things to behave that way. So you have to understand that, though people won't say it that way, it is having a mental disorder. It is having some kind of disability mentally, when you can't function in the mentality of what's best for the pack, what's best for the group, what's best for your future, for your legacy. Then something's wrong there. But with that being said, let me get back on track with what I wanted to get to, which is you being able to protect yourself. So if you are someone who has not entered, excuse me, if you are someone who is not in a steady long-term relationship right now, I just want to say to you that, since these are different times, like I mentioned, here's what you're going to do to protect yourself. One, you need to be strong in character. Do not think that anymore you can rely on the idea that there are just a bunch of, nice people out there, or maybe the person that you're with is nice and they're different, the exception to the rule. Because as I speak more and more with a lot of people that I know, and on top of that, actually do research into, the various communities of similar topics, whether it's other content creators, channels, whether it's reading on articles, whether it's, just any place that I can get additional information to be more aware of this social space. What you start to find is that there's so many more people that are out there that are wicked and that cause problems, that they feed off of people thinking that there are nice people out there. There's almost like this I don't want to call it a brainwashing, but it's almost like this energy that's been put out there for many years to say, be nice, be nice. And I'm sure everyone's heard it all the time, be the nice person, and, and that's going to get you far. What's happened is that you had a slew of people over the years who've learned to take advantage of those same kind of people. So don't be the person who just assumes, well, the person I'm with, they can't be bad, they can't be wrong. A lot of times too, a lot of that blows up once someone's angry at you, and sometimes they'll create anger out of nowhere just because they're bored or done. Or like I said, a lot of people have a lot of mental issues out there that they wouldn't view it as mental issues because they just simply say, well, that's that person's choice, not realizing that some choices that are done don't make sense socially, if what I'm saying makes sense. Like it doesn't make sense in the dynamic of protecting the best interest of even that individual's self long term, because they're burning all the bridges that actually is going to give them a better life. So with that being said, understand that don't just get caught up in thinking that, you shouldn't protect yourself against someone. So that's one thing. Don't assume you shouldn't be protecting yourself. But what you can do is this. First off, if you're an individual who's a go-getter, whether you're a man or a woman, if you're the type of person who's going to start pursuing things like businesses, or like we spoke on the channel before, real estate, maybe you're doing an investment with your money in terms of stocks, or, various types of stocks, whether it's indexes, individual stocks, whatever the avenue that you choose to go down. Put everything in a business title. Put up a business title, a LLC or something of that sort. I really can't speak too much on it because I'm not going to say that I'm a master of that, but find out, speak to someone and find out, ask anybody you know. If not, then, you can always find out by going to your local city hall, and you can actually get an LLC done there, if I'm not mistaken. I've had some experience with something like that in the past in terms of creating a business name. So you should be able to get all your information from there at the least, or look it up online. Nowadays, everybody looks everything up online, but find out about say if you have an investment account, create a trust and make that entire trust, which would encompass all that finances that you're investing into a business company. So that way it's not touchable by whatever relationship that you get in down the line if it doesn't work. This also includes your property. And it doesn't matter if you only got one property. Right away, put it into some kind of business, format, LLC or other various types that you could do. But generally speaking, people say LLC, and do that. Label it as a business. So that way, if anything goes wrong with you, in your relationship with the person that you're with, you can, you're protected. You're protected. You don't have to worry about, that person coming after it. Now, if you do that in advance, obviously you're protected, and you got to have that mindset of like, I'm not going to let somebody destroy the kingdom I'm building. And I mentioned in some previous videos about, you building your empire or your kingdom and your legacy. Understand that building process does not start with an individual. It starts with you, and you build your own legacy, your own empire. We'll say, just for clarity of terms, your legacy is going to be what you leave down to your kids, but you building your empire is the what you're building in the present day time for yourself. As you're building your empire before you even have kids, before you have any of that, understand that starts with you. So you don't need to be with someone to say, I'm building an empire, or, I'm going to start building my legacy once I have someone and I have kids. No, you can start building your empire now, but you have to protect that empire, because whoever you get with is not necessarily the person you're going to be with for the rest of your life. It may not work out that way. So for that reason, your empire is a separate entity from who comes in and out of your life. People who come in and out of your life, I'm sorry to say this if it sounds brutal, should not be any more significant than any other person who comes in and out of your empire. So imagine your empire is like your storefront or a company, and you got some workers there. And guess what? You can have like your best general manager. But if that general manager one day screws up, you got to fire them. You have to fire them. You don't now have your whole business wrapped around that general manager. You fire them, you get a new general manager, and everything keeps going as planned. But guess what? You can't let that one general manager disturb all the rest of the employees, disturb all the rest of the business that's going on and everything going on with it, because everyone else under that roof of that business is being supported by you. So if one person is able to destroy the whole thing, that's a problem. And that's how you have to look at your empire when it comes to building your structure, your family, your entire dynasty. Even on a small scale of you just being an average person who's working hard and you're building things up, you still have to view it that way, because it's your life. So you have to view it as your dynasty, your empire. It's your life. So no matter how big or small it is, it's still big to you. And with that being said, you have to protect it and everyone in it, because sometimes you're going to have, maybe you get with someone, you have kids, maybe you're not with them anymore. Then maybe you get with someone else, you have more kids. Guess what? Now you have all these kids that are growing up. They're like part of that storefront I just said. Don't let the new general manager or the old one destroy that, because now you have people underneath you that depend on you. Maybe it's not even just kids. Maybe you have grandparents that depend on you, or parents or cousins or other people who's part of your empire that feed off of you, and there's nothing wrong with that. And when I say that feeding off of you, what I mean is that maybe you employ them. Maybe you've gotten to a level that you were able to teach them about growing their empire, or being a part of your empire and growing together as a family. Because remember, family doesn't have to just mean the ones below you, like, husband, wife, and kids. It could be, well, I got cousins, I got, this and that. I have friends that are so close to me, I consider them family. We're all part of this big business and this empire. So with that being said, you may have multiple people feeding off of what you have grown, and you can't let one person destroy that. So you protect that. Put it in a business name. Make sure no one's able to get to it before you get with someone. If you already have got with someone and you're with them, and you haven't started building yet, you haven't started growing your empire, when you start being ready to make moves, you need to say to them, and I know sometimes it's tough, because when you're with someone, especially if you're with someone who has a very dominant personality, sometimes we might say, well, I don't want to, poke the bear, as the saying goes. And I don't want to say the thing that's going to make them go, oh, I'm mad at you and X, Y, and Z. But here's one thing you need to understand. Sometimes you're going to have to say, hey, listen, like, I'm going to go maybe buy this home and I'm going to put it in a business title. And guess what? If you didn't pay for it, you're not going to be on it. I understand we're dating, but you're not going to be a part of that, because you haven't contributed to it. You don't want to, and that's fine. But that's what it is. Now, if they contribute to it, that's different. But if it's just you're with a significant other who they're just kind of along for the ride, and you're the one who has the goals and the motivation, you need to let them know, I'm putting these things in a way where I have to be protected. You don't have to say it like that, but you know to yourself, I'm doing it for this reason. And however you phrase it to them, make sure you protect yourself. And at the end of the day, I know this is going to be hard. So, and so I'm going to say that, acknowledging that it's hard, because I don't ever want to make it seem like it's just nonchalant. Hey, tell the person that you're with, that you care about, I'm going to make a hard decision, and they either are going to accept it or they're going to walk. So I'm not going to pretend that that's an easy thing to do or say, because sometimes you have these content creators who just say, be about your business, and just stone cold, like it's not a hard thing to do. It is hard. It's hard to tell somebody sometimes, when you have the risk of losing them, that you have to protect yourself from them in case they were ever to change on you. And obviously, like I said, you're not going to word it like that, but you need to be strong. You need to be able to say, you know what, we're together, but these are my goals. The fact that you aren't aiming for that, I need to do this, put this LLC. Now, granted, if you're just dating someone, you're not married, they're not entitled to these things anyway. But the reason why I say that you would have to do that is because you don't know if later on down the line, if you do get married, maybe they might try to push some claim to try to have something of yours down the line in some way. Maybe they may even say they want you to put their name on something down the line and try to push you or persuade you. Putting some of these elements in to protect you now makes it a little easier down the line for you not to get as easily pushed into or persuaded into something that you're not comfortable doing. So make sure that you protect yourself in all forms and cases. And I'm sure that this video, for anyone who watches it, is going to resonate with them, either them or someone that they know that's going through hardship right now. And that is the case. In addition, I'm going to tackle the element of kids as well, because that's always like a big part of it. If you're with someone and you're not married, but you have kids, or you're married and you have kids, same difference for the most part. How do you protect yourself against that? Especially when you don't know how things are going to turn out. Well, first off, I'm going to say this. We live in the age now where if you see red flags from day one, understand you do not overlook red flags in this day and age. Maybe back in the days, 30, 40 years ago, 50 years ago, you can overlook some red flags because most people had enough common sense or good character to say, yeah, I might be a little bit selfish in some things, but I'm not going to burn down the entire forest or burn down the whole land just because I get a little tidbit, a little hissy fit over something small. Nowadays, it's not like that. And this is why I say people have mental issues nowadays, and it doesn't want to be actually admitted. Anyone who's willing to burn down their entire land, figuratively speaking, is like, I'm going to burn down, is willing to burn down their whole land, just to prove their point or their ego. Something's wrong with you at that point. But the thing about it is, in today's society, there's a lot of people who are willing to do that, and that's a problem. So with that being said, 100%, it's one of those things that you need to protect yourself from, because that's how people operate these days. So if you see any kind of red flags, don't assume that those small red flags won't become bigger. It's almost guaranteed in this day and age that they will become bigger. And if I had to throw out a random percentage, which don't quote me on it, but it's probably, the moment you see red flags, it's probably at least about a 75% chance those red flags will become so much worse, and they will not just be small red flags that eventually, that person corrects and you won't see them ever again. That's very rare in this day and age. Where back in the days, many years back, people kind of knew there was a certain duty they had to have regardless. So if they had little quirks about them, they didn't let that blow up to become something too big. So that's first and foremost. But if you're already in the picture with someone and then you end up having kids with them, one of the best things I could say to you is, while you're still on good terms, start putting in place certain forms of protection. And some of those things could be, while you're still on good terms, maybe you can start demanding or saying, listen, we're going to have to figure out something that if something was to happen or we were to separate, how are things going to work out? And sometimes people don't want to have those kind of conversations, but sometimes it's better to have those conversations when you're good than when you're not. And maybe you could have that conversation with somebody, and it's tough. These are very tough things. So I'm not going to tell you that they're not tough, but maybe have that conversation, and and maybe you can have something where you write up where something neutral, so it won't bother the person that much. But maybe you could say, listen, like, maybe if we break up, you're not paying child support, they're not paying child support. They both have 50%. You both equally have equal share of custody of the kids. And maybe, you can do that while things are positive. And you just, even if you got to say, listen, I had family that had a bad experience, so I just want to protect myself. It's nothing against you, but X, Y, and Z. This day and age, it's sad, but we got to have the strength of character to challenge those that we are with, because it will hurt us in the end if we don't. It will hurt us in the end if we don't. And like I said, I've seen it a lot now. I'm sure a lot of you guys seen it a lot now. So that's something that you can do. Now, there are some other extreme cases. What's actually funny, matter of fact, that I'm going to pinch on real quick is, I once thought the idea that a person could say, well, maybe when I'm getting married to somebody, I could say, listen, I want you to sign an agreement that if we have kids and we break up, I want to make sure that I have sole custody of the kids in advance. And I used to think, that would be crazy, even though I see a lot of people would want to do something like that because, the problems that they end up facing down the line. But it'd be kind of crazy to bring that up. And it's funny because right now, Al Pacino is going through. He's married to some young girl. If you're watching this at the time right now, I think he got married to some young woman, or maybe not married, but had a kid with some young woman who I think is in her 20s or something like that. And he's like 70 something or 80. And she had wrote up something saying that she wanted custody of something to the effect of that if they break up, she'll have sole custody of the kids, something like that. So it goes to show that same thought I had is not actually that far-fetched. So if it comes to that, that might be an option too, in terms of protecting yourself. And I know it seems kind of extreme, but maybe when you get with somebody and before you even have kids, you could say, hey, listen, if we end up having kids, this is what it's going to be, or otherwise I don't want to have kids with you. But at the end of the day, I just know that we're coming into times where we have to be aggressive about what we want and what we demand things should be, especially if we know we are, quote unquote, and I'll use this term lightly, the good person of the relationship, or the person who's going to be looking out for the best interests of both parties and is not selfish. You have to be strong about demanding what you want, because at the end of the day, one thing that's always said is that if you are the leader of a relationship, and when I say the leader, I mean the person who is creating the empire, the one who is either bringing in the most money or controlling the finances, or has the plan, the battle plan to create an empire, whether or not maybe you and that other person make equal finances, but you're the brains behind what you guys are doing with the finances. You're taking their money and your money, combining it, investing in things, or whatever the case is. Simply the person who's in charge, the person who's really trying to run the show in terms of creating the empire has to be the person who has the last say so, and is the one who's in charge of what's going on. You can't be the one building the empire, but you're not the one who makes the orders and says so, because then it's going to fall apart. You know, it's like the saying goes in terms of protecting someone. The protector of somebody has to be in charge of the person they're protecting, because if not, then the person that they're protecting will lead them to places that the protector will know is dangerous, and they won't be able to effectively do their job. And that's the same thing in terms of building an empire. The person who's doing the building has to be in charge of the building process, or otherwise it won't get built. And that is very important to know. So sometimes all the time, we have to be aggressive if we know we are the builder, with establishing who's in charge. And with that said, I know the video ran for a long time. Any comments that you guys have, post them down below in the comment section. Any questions you have, post them down below. And, you know, if it's something that I can answer in the comments, or maybe we'll even do another topic on later on. But definitely put in your feedback in the comments, just to quote or shout out that, you know, you've either gone through this, or you know someone who's going through it, because I've heard of a lot of people who's going through it this day and age, and just shout it out that, you know, you've experienced something like this, you know someone's going through this, because I think it's important for more people to keep shouting out that they go through this, so others who are not going through it can realize how widespread it is. You know, that's very important, because then it's going to really influence their decision. It's like no different than if there's like a fatal illness going around and you haven't seen anybody with it, you're going to think it's not a big deal to worry about. But then the moment you look around and you see everyone's affected by it, you're going to go, oh, shoot, now I don't want to go outside. And it's important for people to know, hey, these things are rampant out there. So with that being said, I am going to catch you guys in the next video.